Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi, I'm BK. Welcome to another very quick, short, important training session for our team. And today we have with us a very special guest. We have with us Julie Watts. Some of you are already very familiar with her. Those of you who are not, let me just quickly tell you a little bit about Julie. Julie has been one of our most kind and most gracious team builders, team leaders. She's also one of those that I have personally seen in action many, many times because she has come down to Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines to help all of us. And she has also let me see some of her back office action, and I know that she has been a very stable and a very consistent builder. Now, one of the secrets to this is that obviously her team also leverages a lot on her on doing important basic actions like three-way calls and three-way meetings. So I thought she will be the best person to come and teach us on how to do a proper three-way meeting, because if you're really smart, you'll be leveraging on your uplines and your team leaders. And if you're really smart, you will be duplicating. So today is a training that Julie's going to conduct for us on how to do a proper three-way meeting, the things we should watch out for. So I'm going to pass the time over to Julie, and she's going to give us a wonderful training. I'm going to learn a lot from her. Thanks, Julie.
Thanks for that introduction, BK, and welcome to our three-way calls and meeting training this morning. So three-way calls or meetings are used when an associate has a prospect they want to introduce to an expert. And in this training, you may be the associate at some point, and at some point you might also be the expert. So this expert could be someone in your upline, even crossline. I've done a lot of three-way calls for people that aren't even in my business. Or anyone else that has experience on the subject matter and more experience than you on the subject matter. But also, not necessarily that has to be the case either, because sometimes when it's family and friends and things like that, they just don't believe you could know anything, and you could actually introduce anybody to them that had a little bit of experience and they would think they knew more than you. So you need to be aware that it doesn't always have to be somebody that has major experience. Sometimes it's just somebody that's not you that has a bit of experience. So the importance of pre-framing when you have three-way calls or meetings, it is really important. Associates must make sure that they give the expert as much information as possible about the prospect before the call or meeting. This gives the expert the information they need to ask all the right questions, and sometimes even to make sure that they don't say certain things. So with meetings, the meeting place is very important. Be there early and set the stage for the meeting. It needs to be really quiet and free of distractions. Seats need to be comfortable, and you will make sure that you have a laptop table, somewhere that you can put your laptop. If you're going to do a presentation, of course, always make sure the laptop is fully charged, because the last thing you want to happen during some presentation is to have your laptop battery go flat. So all of these things need to be thought about in advance. Go and check out the place you're planning to meet somebody. If it's going to be somewhere that's not in your home or their home or a quiet room, make sure you find somewhere that meets all these expectations, because it's really important. So with calls you need to be in a very quiet place and free of all distractions before you call the prospect. Also, sometimes it's really handy to have notes to remind you of some things that you need to ask or say to them to get you started. So notes come in really handy, but make sure you're in a quiet place and not going to be distracted by anything. So the way to do three-way calls, a lot of people don't know how to do this, and it is quite simple. Most mobile phones, or I think all mobile phones today, would be able to do this. So the associate calls their prospect, and then when they're ready, they press the add call button and they dial the expert's number, and then you will be able to talk to the expert while your prospect is on hold. And after that, somewhere on your screen, depending what type of phone you have, you should see something that says something like merge call. And then if you press the merge call button, then everybody will be able to hear each other and speak at the same time. So following these instructions with most mobile phones should be able to get you into a three-way call situation. And it's really, really important to actually practice a three-way call with somebody. Don't decide you're going to do a three-way call and then figure out all of a sudden that you don't know how to do it. You don't know where the add call button is or the merge call thing. Practice it with a few people first. It's a really good idea to practice this so you understand how it's working on your phone, because sometimes they're different. So the associate introduces the prospect to the expert. And then, of course, one of the really important things is that you edify your expert. So in network marketing, edification is used to provide credibility for a person, event, or a company. It's a way to build them up, introduce them, and give them stature. In network marketing, it is absolutely vital that you edify your upline leaders in order to give them credibility and position them as experts in the eyes of the person they're speaking to. It is really, really important. So this is an edification triangle. Basically, you can see here there's you, there's your friend or your prospect, and hopefully, via some relationship, you already have some trust with these people. And then, of course, over here you have you and your expert, and you need to edify your expert. You need to speak about how successful they are, knowledgeable they are, trustworthy, also how busy they are as well, and how great it is that they've taken time out of their really busy day to talk to you, because that's quite important as well. And then, of course, the idea is to make sure that your expert and your prospect or your friend, there's respect there. So that edification triangle is really important. And then the associate just keeps quiet. This is hugely important. When you are introducing a prospect to the expert, once you've done the edification and you've introduced them, you sit back and you be quiet, and you should not even be able to tell that you are on the phone at all. You should not speak again until you are invited to at the end by the expert, when they ask something like, is there any other questions you'd like me to answer, or something I haven't covered. And if you have done your job properly beforehand, you shouldn't need to say anything at all. If you've done all your pre-framing correctly, you should really be able to introduce the expert to your prospect and sit back and be quiet. Very, very important that you do that, and just listen. And the more you do this, the more you will learn how to do this yourself and actually then become the expert. Learn how to do three-way calls from first an associate point of view when you're doing this, but then also learning how you actually become the expert and get on the end of the phone for your associates as well. So the expert then asks questions, listens very carefully to the answers, then provides information or advice and answers the questions. And then after that, they will ask if there is anything else the prospect would like to know. After that, the associate simply thanks the expert very much and let them go. It's really important that a three-way call or a quick three-way meeting, it doesn't take up the expert's time, and certainly doesn't take up the prospect's time either. This is not meant to be a full-on presentation most of the time. It's just getting some information from someone who supposedly knows more than you do. So it's not meant to take a long time, and definitely you don't want to be holding up your expert because you've already said how busy they are and they've taken time out of their busy day. So literally it's like, you need to finish up and get them off the phone. So thank them for their time and their wisdom, and then let them get out of the call. And they will hang up, and then you will be left with you and your prospect at that time. So after there's just you guys on the phone, you will ask your prospect, if they need more information, have they got all the answers they are looking for? And if so, would they like to open an account? And pretty much that is it. So it's really important to edify. It's really important to make sure that you're in a position, in the right space, in the right headspace, but also in the right place, in a quiet place. Make sure your meeting places aren't full of noise and clutter and, you know, banging glasses and tables. Make sure you're not going to be interrupted where you are. Go into a room, close the door. The other thing that you should do when you're on a phone call like that is stand up as well. Don't yourself on a phone call sit somewhere comfortably. Like, stand up when you're talking to people and walk around, because it just helps with your voice and your lungs and everything when you're doing that. So I always do that. I don't sit and talk to anybody when I'm doing a three-way call. I'm actually up and walking around, and but still in a quiet room somewhere, in a quiet space where I'm not going to be bothered. So that's about it, BK. Do you have any questions that you think we might not have covered?
Yeah, thanks, Julie. I think the thing about you can stop the share now, so we can just have a quick conversation. Yeah, thanks, Julie. That was what we really needed to know. In fact, a lot of times in this industry and what we're doing, people tend to think that there's complicated steps and so on, but it's actually a lot of very simple things that we just need to keep doing. And maybe just a quick few questions for you so that we can help the people in the training to understand. Like what are the best case studies, or from in your experience when your team members leverage on you to do a three-way call, how have they done well and that has resulted in a very positive meeting? And maybe what are the things that they have not done well that maybe resulted in a not so good meeting?
Basically, the pre-framing part is really important, because I've had occasions where they haven't explained to me that somebody has been quite negative about network marketing. So, you know, you really have to understand why you're speaking to them, whether you're speaking to them about product, whether you're speaking to them about business, if they have a health challenge, what that health challenge is, if there's things that they don't want to talk about, and that does happen sometimes. So you just have to be really careful. The mistake a lot of people make when they get into this business at first is think that they don't need to do three-way calls or meetings or leave it up to somebody else to do things. They think they need to do it all themselves. And that is a huge mistake, because your friends and your family, your warm market, do not think you understand Redox technology. And why would they believe that you understand Redox technology? They may be your warm market, but they're actually your hardest market. Without a doubt, most people have that problem. So
some of them have seen in your diapers as well, so it's going to be hard to totally get it.
You know, you're not an expert in their eyes, and they think you've jumped into something.
Thanks, Julie. Yeah, I think pre-framing is really important, and a lot of times when the associates do a good job pre-framing and gives as much information as possible to the team leader or the upline expert who is doing it, it kind of really smooths things along, and the success rate is usually much higher as a result of that. Now, another quick common question that we get asked is, do you collect a decision for the three-way meeting, or do you try to attempt to close the prospect for the downlines or the team members?
It depends how the conversation goes, really. It depends if the prospect leads into asking those questions, then I'll answer them. But generally I would leave it up to the associate to do that at the end, because that's really not what the expert is there for. The expert is there just to explain things, give advice. You know, it doesn't mean I haven't done it. And sometimes when it's somebody that's very early in the piece, I'll be already pre-framed about that. So I'll know that, you know, once this person's had a conversation, they would really like to enroll, and can you help me with that? And we'll actually go through that whole process.
Okay.
But that's not something that happens a lot.
Yeah. So again, back to the idea that if the associates have done their job properly, that means they kind of let us know, the three-way call leaders or uplines, that yes, I would like you to try and get him started, and we would try to collect a decision that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the last thing is, do you actually go through a full presentation on the three-way call, or do you just talk about questions and
No,
answers?
I generally just talk. In a meeting, I might, if I'm actually going to meet somebody, like just with the associate and a prospect, I'll take my laptop with me and have a very short, few slides to explain stuff. But a lot of times I find that it's not necessary. Once you start talking to people and they're asking the questions, it's fine. I don't need to go down that path, but I always have it with me just in case. I always take my laptop with me to a meeting just in case I do need something for them.
Okay. And how about situations when an associate comes with their prospects and the prospect has got absolutely no clue as to why and why they're there, and have you ever encountered things like that, and how do you actually tackle this?
I have, and it's very, very obvious that that the associate has not done their homework, and it's not a good position to be put in. It's really not a good idea for an associate to just say, hey, call this, can we call this person, or can you call this person for me, when they really have no clue. That is not what a three-way call or a meeting is all about. The associate needs to do their homework. They need to have already spoken to the person about a SIA. They need to, the person needs to be ready to go to the next step before you put them in that position. They need to have some information. And if it's a really new associate, it's fine if they don't have a lot of information, but as long as they know what they're stepping into. Like, I've had situations where I've stepped into these things and the person on the other end of the phone has no clue why they're talking to me. And that, you're not likely to keep that person. It's not a situation they like to be put in either. So it is really the whole pre-framing thing with, with three-way calls or meetings with people is so important. If they don't do the homework up front, then the outcome at the other end is likely to not be so good.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, so thanks, Julie. Thanks for your time. This is something that we really need to get to do more, because once you do three-way calls and three-way meetings properly, in fact, a lot of the top leaders in our company has always mentioned that the reason why they are there, or they are doing well in their business, is because they leverage a lot on three-way calls and three-way meetings. Thanks, Julie, for your time. Have a good morning. Bye.
No worries. Bye.